Hi everyone, welcome back to the second part of the clay tutorial. I think we're going to just run right into it. So today we're going to cover actually using clay for creating a layout, since we have already done the initial kind of setup. So I just wanted to start by showing that the actual source code for all this is up on GitHub under this URL. I will put it in the description below. And so far I have marked each commit kind of with the different parts. So I have just finished the code for part 4. And today we're going to end up with the code in this commit. So you can kind of reference the code and see if you have any kind of different approach or if you have any problems. Alright. So let's see. So here's the code from the last session. One thing that someone in the comments noticed, which is very good, is that there is a third argument in this clay initialize. The reason that I didn't kind of see this is that I have an outdated clay file. So first off, what we should do is actually update my clay file. So what I would do is kind of go into here, pull, so I have the latest. I have already done this. So we can then kind of copy the clay file into the Mars. Yeah, and let's delete the old one. And copy. There we are. And what we also can do, just to make sure, is just also copy the new Raylib folder. I'm not sure if there has actually been any changes, but let's do it anyways. Oh, of course. So it's under render. Can't spell renderer / Raylib. There we are. Let me zoom in a bit. Cool. So yeah, now we get the, let's see. So now if we get the error here already. So 2 free arguments, and let's check what the problem is here. So they have added some kind of clay error handler, which is it's a struct. They're using this type macro thing for declaring clay structs. So it's a normal struct with an argument called error handler function and some kind of user data. And the function takes in this thing. So let's do that first. So what should we call this? Handle clay error. Takes in clay error data, error text. For now, let's just print received clay error. We won't actually act on anything, and we can pass this argument. So let's do clay error handler, and we can pass in handle clay error like so. And with that done, we should now be able to build into build, make, yeah, and we should be able to run as well. Cool. So that's fixed. So now we can actually get into, let's get into actually using clay. I'm gonna bring up my reference here and bring it to the side, just so I don't get lost. Yeah. So let's see, what should we start with? So let's start by just creating something very, very basic. So let's do build a clay layout, just a small helper. And yeah, so the first thing you have to do is called clay begin layout. and then you have to call end layout, and in here then we do the actual clay layout code. And to actually render this, the end layout function returns the output of the entire layout. So we save that, render commands, and in here now we can do Raylib clay Raylib render, and we pass in the render commands. And this function is from the Raylib renderer. Cool. So what should we begin with? Let's start by just creating a rectangle that covers the entire screen. So let's begin. The first kind of every element in clay begins with the macro clay. And as described, this macro looks scary on the surface, but it's actually quite simple. So the clay macro, if we go into it, kind of expects a clay element post configuration, the clay open element. Let's see. Yeah, so it's not super clear. It's not super clear from the surface what this takes in. But yeah, in here we can do, for example, clay ID to give the ID of our element. Let's call this one main. So just this line right now, this should actually just work. We won't get anything out, so we get nothing rendered. There's nothing to render because we have just created an empty element. So let's fill this one out. So I'm still inside the clay macro, the clay parentheses here, and this is the second argument after clay ID. And I'm going to do a layout argument. And this kind of specifies how the element should lay out all the children. And for this, there is something called layout direction, which in our case, this would be clay top to bottom. There's a bunch of these, so there's like left to right, I think. Let's see what there actually are. Oh, if we do top to bottom here. Yeah, so there is left to right and top to bottom. So horizontal or row based, horizontal or vertical layout, basically. So we are doing a vertical layout. We're also going to do a size. So that's the sizing argument. Let's put this on a new line just to clear. So sizing takes in a width and a height. So the first argument, width, in our case we will do clay sizing grow, and this tells the element to grow to whatever maximum size it's allowed. In our case this will be the screen size. Same with the height. That's done. That's the size. And then we can also do let's do some padding. I'm going to set the padding to 16 by 16 standard, and then we're going to do child gap, also 16 pixels. So that's the layout. Now we can also make sure that there is something visible with the rectangle, clay rectangle, and this one simply takes in a color. And now we are wondering, what is color? Let's check. Element configuration, rectangle element, is here, right? Yeah. So we can pass in clay color or a corner radius. Let's see what clay color is defined as. So this one is defined as an RGBA with float. So what I have done here is kind of, let me copy paste this. This might change in future episodes, but here are some color values. And let's do color dark. Let's see, sorry, I have my Slack open. Let's close that. Where are we? Yeah, so down here we're going to do color dark. So you can copy this if you want, or you can do your own color scheme. Doesn't matter at all. Yeah, so that's it. Now we have an element covering the entire screen with a rectangle of the color dark. So let's run this. And here we are. Now we have covered the entire previously yellow kind of background with an gray rectangle. So that's awesome. And now let's place some elements inside of here. So we're going to like kind of instantly do the Mars rover layout, and I can show you real quick what this layout looked like. So we're going to do header, center, and footer. Kind of, so top to bottom, element 1, element 2, element 3. 1, 2, 3. And number 2, of course, contains 3 elements, left to right aligned. But let's start just placing the header. So following the pattern from before, we do clay to open a new element. We give this an ID of name header. We do open brackets, put children inside. New line, kind of like that. Once again, we specify a layout. So layout, we can skip the layout direction and just do sizing. Skip right to sizing. And sizing will be, once again, we want this element to grow. And we want the pixel height to be fixed this time. Sizing fixed tells it to be a fixed size of 50 pixels. Let's see if there is anything else. Yeah, there is. We should also have something called, no, in this, yeah, here we go, comma, still inside the declaration for the layout, but outside of the sizing declaration. We are doing child alignment. So this field kind of tells the children elements how they should align inside the header. So for X alignment, we kind of, let's see, let's think. I think we want clay align X center on the first and clay align Y center on the second. And we once again do child gap equal to 16, and we can do padding equal to 16. Yeah, so now I put this in a different order. I don't want to do that. I want the same order as before. There we go. So that's cool. That's the entire layout for the header. And to make it visible, let's add a rectangle to this element. Color would be color light, right? And that should be it. Oh, we want the comma here. Yeah, so declaring the element with ID header, layout, and rectangle. And the children go in here. But we won't worry about that for now. So let's see if this looks alright. Yeah, this works. So if we look at the design once again, we can kind of, it's not really here. Let's see. So what I kind of want here, instead of this straight line, I kind of want a rectangle with the same kind of rounding on the edges. So we want the edges here to be rounded off. And how do you do that? Let me tell you, you pass in corner radius. And this specifies the kind of border radius in CSS. It's the same thing. And we can kind of pass 8, I think. No. Corner radius takes in XY, or top, left, bottom, right. And we want 8 pixels rounding for all of these. So passing 8, 8, 8, 8. Let's see, what did we do wrong? Did we misspell corner radius? Corner radius. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. And moving on, we kind of want the exact same thing for footer. So let's do the footer here. Footer. And yeah, let's make the footer a bit larger. So let's put this at like 200. And let's actually increase this to be like 60. So 60 to 100 doesn't really matter if you have the exact same numbers as me. And then so the header and the footer, and now we want the middle part. So number 2 here, kind of, we want to create kind of this look. So one rectangle here, one rectangle in the center, and one rectangle on the right. And what we can do, I think, for simplicity, is kind of copy, almost just copy this. So the exact same, but we don't want a rectangle. And this one. And we want this to be removed. Oh shit, sorry. Sorry. And we want to call this, let's call this like center container. And this is complaining because improperly terminated macro. Yeah, because there should be a parenthesis there. So now we, instead of going top to bottom for the center, we want clay. What was it? Left to right. So we want to go left to right. And we want, let's see, yeah. We don't want any padding here as well, since the padding is, it should come from here. Yeah. So let's start off by creating another, and we shall call this like left container. Left container, and the left container should have a clay layout, and the clay layout should be, it should have a layout direction of clay top to bottom. It should have a sizing, and the width should be clay sizing fixed. And let's make it 300 pixels wide. And the height, what should the height be? So the height should just grow to whatever maximum size is allowed. And in our case, that will be, if you think of kind of window height minus 60 minus 200. That would be the height of the left container. Minus some padding, of course. But we just set it to grow to maximum size allowed. And then we do, once again, padding should be 16, 16. And child gap should be 16. Let's put this on a new line, just to make it look nice. And of course, to make it visible, we do clay rectangle once again. And we want the same rectangle here, so you can just copy this rectangle. That's the left container. We can do the kind of exact same for the right container. And the exact same for the center container. But now, instead of the size being, the width being fixed, we also want the width of this one to kind of grow and take up whatever size is allowed. So that's it. Let's see if this looks alright. Yeah. Oh, we are receiving errors. That's interesting. Let's see what kind of error we receive. So, error text, error string. Can we print the string? Got. So let's do that. Error text dot chars. An element with this ID was already previously declared during this layout. Yeah, of course. So center container was already defined here. So, what should we do? Center container, what should we call these? Kind of, I guess, let's call this left area, center area, oh shit, and right area. So now the error should disappear. Cool. So that's it. This kind of matches our design right now. If you look, it kind of looks the same. Has the same look, at least, or feel. And maybe we could increase the border radius some. Yeah. Was there anything else that we should kind of go through? Yeah, right. So, right now, I mean, all of these clay macros, it is messy, of course. This looks very messy, and just logically, if we want to put more code here later, and then we might have some code after the layout, etc, etc, this will become a very large main function. So I already now want to put this, separate the layout into its own function, which will return a clay render command array. So let's do that, and I will call this function build layout. Takes in no argument, and we can just copy all of this code we just wrote here into this function, and it should return clay and layout, since we are returning the render command array. So we can remove this, and we can just do render command array render commands is equal to build layout, like this. This makes the main loop easier to kind of approach. And also what we want to do, update Raylib states, or update clay state according to Raylib data. So there are two functions we want to do: set pointer state, which takes in a position and a is pointer down boolean, and we also want to do update scroll containers. I'm not sure if we actually will use any scroll containers in this application, but this is good to at least do for learning purposes. So the first function expects a clay vector 2 of the mouse position and a boolean for if the pointer is pressed. So we can do the second argument super easy. We can just use the Raylib function is mouse button down, and let's do mouse left, and then it expects a mouse position, so let's feed that as well. Here we can just do, I wonder if we can do get mouse position like this. We can't. A value of type vector 2 cannot be used to initialize an entity of type float. Yeah. So we have to do get mouse position like this. Yeah. So just feeding the Raylib mouse position into the clay library. Same here, we can pass, so it expects scroll delta time, and enable drag scroll. So enable drag scrolling doesn't matter at all. I'm just going to put this to false. And scroll delta, just like the mouse position we can do. Of course, there is a nice function for us to use. Get mouse wheel W, V, which I guess is velocity. So that would be the same as delta. Dot X and get mouse wheel dot Y. And the last argument was delta time. And delta time is something, let's name this delta time. Delta time is something we might use, or will probably use later on. So let's create a variable called get frame time. I should name this DT. There we go. Yeah. So the reason we're doing this every frame is of course because these states are changing every frame. The mouse position will move, and the mouse wheel, the mouse scroll will also move. So these, if we do this outside the loop, of course it will cause unexpected behavior because we grab the mouse position once and then never again. So we want to do this every frame, and then we build the layout, and then we render the layout. Cool. So that's it. We have been going for half an hour. and I'm pretty happy with the results. And in the next, let's see what's up next. So if we kind of we did this, understanding we have done this kind of. We have done this. So next up is rendering text with a custom font. So that will be in the next episode, and I think that one will be quite short. It's super. It's not that many lines of code, and it's super simple. Yeah. So thank you for watching, and once again, feel free to point out if something isn't working, or if you have any questions with C or Clay or Raylib, and I will try to answer. Yes. So thank you.